In this video, we're going to be busting a lot of myths. Why? Because we are going to be naming the most frequently asked questions that I have gotten as an experienced gestational carrier. Disclaimer, this video is only for entertainment purposes only. No professional advice whatsoever, no fertility professional advice, no legal professional advice, no mental health advice, no legal advice. You're going to be able to find this video in my playlist, IVF, infertility, and surrogacy, and you can find the link to that playlist in the description below. Also, I'm going to be able to place the most important links that I think are more related to this video. That way you can see me diving deeper all of these topics that I am going to cover today. Another disclaimer and trigger warning. I am going to be speaking on very sensitive subjects related to fertility. Right now, if you feel like you're sensitive about a situation related to it, please skip this video. Right before we get into it, my name is Melissa Lymangrover, and I am also a surrogacy consultant for Integrative Surrogacy. I currently recruit surrogates, and if you are interested in becoming a surrogate, don't forget to read the whole entire description below, and also send me an email to the address that you see on screen right now. I do not recruit intended parents. However, if you feel like you need a recommendation, of course, I recommend you this amazing agency. Also, I am a very opinionated person, so this is why I label this video for only entertainment purposes only. So that means that my opinions are solely mine and not necessarily the ones that Integrative Surrogacy shares. Let's get right into it. Number 1, is it true that you have to have already kids and be raising them in order to become a surrogate? Well, there are 2 answers to this, and they fall among 2 different spectrums. The first is the psychological spectrum, and then the second comes from the physical spectrum. The psychological spectrum really reminds us that it wouldn't feel unfair for your own mental health to carry a baby for somebody else and not being able to have your own child. So you might feel right now like, well, I don't feel like having children right now. But in the future, that might change, because who knows, maybe you meet a partner and you want to form a family, or maybe in the future you want to become a single parent by choice through IVF, and just mentally it would not be able to be doable when it comes to the psychological spectrum of it, and a psychologist wouldn't be able to approve you to be able to move forward. However, if you are interested in egg donation, I believe that most of the cutoff age for most clinics is age 31. Sometimes they take up to like 33 or maybe 34, I have heard, but I am not knowledgeable on the subject. Now, we're going to be talking about the physical spectrum of it. The reproductive endocrinologists want to make sure that you, as a potential gestational carrier, can actually be able to carry a full-term pregnancy. And I understand that every pregnancy may be different, but they want to make sure that your body responds to the hormones well and is able to carry a pregnancy throughout without complications. Sometimes complications arise that will reveal some of the body genetical predispositions, and by that I mean is sometimes When women have gotten pregnant, they discover that they have thyroid problems. They discover that they have blood disorders, blood pressure issues, or sometimes conditions in the uterus that will prevent them from getting pregnant again. And this is the reason why those medical records have to be transferred to a reproductive endocrinologist so that they can be evaluated, so that they can find out if you are eligible to go to a medical screening. Number 2, what if you get attached to the baby? Well, this is a question that will not be put in question at all throughout the pregnancy and throughout the journey, especially because both parties are going to be protected when it comes to that. If you happen to have your doubts about possibly getting attached to a baby that is not yours and that you have to give back to the parents, you think it might constitute a problem that will affect your mental health, then you have to let know of that to the psychologist that will run your mental health screening. That consists of an interview and also a computerized test. During the interview, the psychologist will ask you many different questions in relation to it. This is to protect you and to protect the intended parents. If she feels that you wouldn't be able to qualify because they feel that you could possibly get attached, and they will tell you, look, we do not think that you will be a fit because of the possibility of possibly getting attached according to the things that you have revealed today. Also, if for some reason you let the psychologist know when you get asked a question that you won't get attached, either because you lied and you wanted to just move forward and then later on something else comes up, unfortunately, those records are saved for the protection of the intended parents. So if anybody would get affected in the long run, would be you. So it's at your best interest that you tell the truth and be transparent from the very beginning. Do not lie to yourself. That's very important because you can end up in trouble. Also, when you become a surrogate, this is a process that cannot just be thought about overnight. This should have been something that you should research months. And then if, for example, you get reached out by a person like me, and it happens to be that you already had researched this topic and already thought through it and consulted it with your partner, and you are convinced that this is something that you want to do, then that is great because that means you are prepared, you are educated, and you know that this is what you want to do. I really do not recommend somebody that does this overnight. Why? Because there's going to be a lot of surprises that will come along in the future when you are not educated. In my opinion, I think that a person that becomes a surrogate is really a person that does not do it for the money. You're going to hear a lot of people out there saying, oh, I wouldn't even do it for $200,000. You would have to pay me $500,000 to become a surrogate. If you are doing it for the money, you're going to have the hardest time. That means if you lie to the psychologist when they ask you and you end up saying, oh, this is not worth for the money, you are going to fail big time and you are going to have the hardest time. I believe that a person that becomes a surrogate should be a person that already has a true, genuine passion for serving their communities, for serving others. A person that has a huge thirst for science, technology, medicine, and for humanity. Somebody that wants to make this world a better place. You know why? Because maybe during the beginning, with the injections and everything, you think that might be an easy stage, even though it's not easy, because it's not easy to get injections done. But throughout the journey, a lot of things could happen. It could go down south. That will take up a lot of time. You could end up even going on bed rest for months. Okay, so that means that you would have to have somebody watch your child that entire time. There could be a lot of other things that could happen. For example, roadblocks, like for example, things with medical insurance, things with the appointments, you have to reschedule, you have to go to the doctor more often than you actually planned or thought. It is very time consuming. So your time has to be very flexible. And yes, you can become a surrogate if you work full time, but you have to be responsible for making sure that you arrange the time for those appointments and that they coincide with the times that you already gave to your supervisor, boss, or what have you. You have to be very committed with showing up at appointments and showing that you are responsible for that little baby that is inside you that is not yours. Number 3, do you get compensated? What if you get a miscarriage or go into preterm labor? Yes, the surrogate gets compensated, but you can't get into surrogacy because of the compensation received, because number 1, you may not be able to even move forward if you don't pass medical clearance. That means first you have to get an OB clearance letter. If your OB says you cannot become a surrogate, then it doesn't go. Number 2, medical clearance, right? That is when you go to the clinic and you get orders for labs for all kinds of blood-related tests where you can detect anything. We're talking about blood disorders. We're talking about sexually transmitted diseases. Anything that you can imagine, thyroid issues, levels of vitamin D, anything that you can imagine. If you don't pass that, or if you can't pass the uterine evaluation through ultrasound or hysteroscopy for any reason that the RE considers unsafe for another pregnancy, then you can't move forward from there.
So they were so nice. The RE was a character himself. The anesthesiologist was a character himself. Very funny, amazing individuals. The procedure was so fast. When we were done, they gave me a little snack and everything. They took some of my history. They also instead of giving an order for local blood work, because they were missing the infectious diseases panel, they decided to do it themselves right there.
But if you do pass the medical clearance, then you would be moving to the 3rd step, which would be legal clearance. That means that your lawyer, your fertility lawyer, and your intended parent fertility lawyer goes back and forth and see if, based to the matching points that you guys should have discussed already, after going back and forth, once all the agreements have been made, if everybody is on the same page, then you move to the medical cycle. If either of the parties can't agree with something, they cannot move to the medical cycle. Match is broken. Number 4, medical cycle. That's when the medications start rolling. Progesterone, estrogen. And if for some reason your body is not responding to the medication, let's say, for example, If your uterus lining is not developing normally and never gets to the desired thickness when it comes to the lining, if you can't respond to those medications, unfortunately, you cannot move forward with the journey. And you do get compensated in a small way for some of those procedures, but you don't get really into the monthly based compensation until there's a heartbeat confirmation. Now, number 5, heartbeat confirmation, right? You have to go through that. If there is a heartbeat, that means if the pregnancy took off, then that's when you get your first monthly base compensation fee. And this is something that gets divided into 10 months, right? So depending on some contracts, it might be a little bit different. I have seen some contracts where they do it for 9 months, something like that. It works like that. And if for some reason there is a miscarriage, an early miscarriage, you only get paid up to date. You don't get paid for the whole entire journey if you had a miscarriage. You only get paid up to date. That sum of money for base compensation gets divided, right, into 10 payments. If you only made it up to here, then that's where you will get. What happens if you make it all the way through 23, 24, 29 weeks? Well, still up to date. Now, there is a lot of contracts where you will see, for example, if the surrogate made it to, for example, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36 weeks, if they made it through that phase, then they qualify to get the full compensation for the whole entire journey, whether the baby is stillborn or alive, right? Okay, now that means that baby is preterm. And when baby is preterm, you wouldn't be able to qualify for a second surrogacy journey. What I have seen is the earliest I have seen another reproductive endocrinologist take and approve a surrogate is if she had full-term pregnancies. Why? Because it can constitute a risk for the next pregnancy. So if you are 37 weeks, then 37 weeks, 38 weeks, then yes, you can be accepted. Maybe not by every reproductive endocrinologist, but you can see who you can match with, whose RE or reproductive endocrinologist will approve you. If you make it to 38 weeks and 39 weeks, then it's a lot easier to get approved for a second journey. Question number 4. Do you do this for somebody you know? The answer to that is yes or no. You may have been asked by a family member or a childhood best friend and see if you're able to go through the screening procedure and everything to see if you qualify. That might have been the situation, but I personally don't recommend it because a lot of things can go down south and the boundaries can get all mixed up, and that's just my opinion. So there are 2 different ways, right? There is the independent journey, which is a journey in which you don't use agency, you don't have that cushion, you are literally on your own, and you really do this to benefit the intended parents. No benefit goes to you. It only goes to the intended parents, even if they tell you otherwise, because yes, they will be saving the agency fee money. They might tell you just to give you extra, but no, you really have to get educated in the subject and then, or have done already a surrogacy journey, in my opinion. One surrogacy journey with an agency, and then if you want to do a second journey, then go independent if you want. But in my opinion, I wouldn't even do a second or a third journey without an agency, because an agency will be there to advocate for you. And sometimes there's no fertility lawyer that will be able to do the things that an agency will be able to do for you. That's just my opinion. No legal advice, no financial advice, no mental health advice, no fertility professional advice. So how do people find intended parents through an agency? Well, once a surrogate has applied, has been accepted, to start all the clearances, once her profile is live on the database of the agency, the intended parents start looking for profiles, and you start looking at profiles of intended parents. If they don't have that method, they will tell you, hey, I have this intended parent that I think will be a great match for you. Let me send you the information. Do you feel like you would like to get to know them better? Right? So that's the way, more or less, how it works. Every agency has their own system. Independently, well, sometimes the surrogate will join a surrogacy matching group and say, hey, I am a person that wants to become a surrogate, and I am intending to do this in an independent way. So anybody that's interested in reaching out, don't hesitate to write me a letter, a message through Facebook or what have you, and talk a little bit about you and all that. But again, in my personal opinion, going independent is not the best way, but that's just my personal opinion. Number 5, but what about your health? Like I said before, you have to go through a medical clearance. You have to be very transparent in your application to become a surrogate of anything from your health history. If you omit anything from your health history just to do a surrogacy journey, and then something comes up later on that shows that this was something that had been in your system for a long time, and they discover that you already knew about it, you're going to be in huge legal trouble. So I'm just going to tell you right now, you have to be convinced that you're a person that is in general really good health before applying, because the medications from IVF already put a strain on your body. And if they put a strain on your body, knowing that you already had problems with blood disorders or blood pressure or anything else, you are going to be in immediate danger. So you have to make sure that for the safety of you and the baby, that you are very truthful about what you reveal when it comes to your history. Yes, it like any pregnancy has its risks. It's not risk-free. And this is why it's not so easy to recruit surrogates, because you have to make sure, you have to vet them and make sure that their health is in optimal conditions before you recommend them officially to an agency. And then it is the responsibility of the applicant, though, to be able to be truthful in their application. You have to understand that just like any other pregnancies, there is always the risk of preterm labor, of developing high blood pressure at certain times if you don't take care of yourself, knowing that you already were in good health. There could be a situation where, for example, hysterectomy had to be done, C-section, or any complications that may arise. You have to understand that all those risks are the same risks that come along with any other surrogacy. Once you understand that, if you still want to become a surrogate or are interested in becoming a surrogate, then you go ahead and fill out an application. A quick reminder, there is no fertility professional advice, no mental health advice, no legal professional advice, no financial professional advice, and no medical professional advice offered in this video. Number 6, do people do this for money? There may be some people that will do it for money, but if you're doing it strictly for the money, it is strictly going to be very difficult, the whole journey. Because no matter how much you get paid for the amount of money that the base compensation gives you, it will never be enough if you thought of it as a job, because a surrogacy journey, it is extremely difficult and it requires 24/7 self-care and being able to watch for the safety of you and the baby. And if you're unable to do that because of your choices, then you are going to be in trouble. So this is why a surrogate has to take also a psychological evaluation. And if she has a partner, that is boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, they also have to do a background check and pass a psychological evaluation before moving on to medical clearance, which is like the second step that I was talking about earlier. Also, you cannot get into the journey if you are in financial hardship. You have to demonstrate that you are financially stable. That is by either providing pay stubs from employment or tax returns if you are self-employed. And this happens at the very beginning. So all this paperwork is ready in case the court has to require them in order to determine the parental rights. You have to be able to prove that you're not doing this for financial gain, and that's something else that the psychological screening will be able to determine. Number 9, why is this process so complicated? It needs to be complicated as in the sense that it needs to be thorough when it comes to the screenings and when it comes to being able to reach every milestone of this process successfully. But what if we don't do that? Then there's going to be a lot of hazards that will come along and a lot of lawsuits, and then it would be illegal in the country. And it would be considered human trafficking if you don't take the appropriate steps to be able to make this journey successful and that you and baby are as safe and as healthy as can be. Now, this is one of the reasons why I always recommend surrogates to be able to also be careful with the type of journey that they will embark. I really recommend surrogates that they educate themselves a lot on embryo quality. And I will put links below and information below about that. All of the things that I have been talking about, I dive in deeper in other videos, and I'm going to try to put as many videos. If I miss something, make sure that you try to watch all the videos that I have in the playlist because there is so much important information. Okay, so going back, I always recommend surrogates that if they want to work with excellent type of embryos to add that extra layer of cushion for a possible successful pregnancy, right? I recommend that they choose intended parents that already have 3 embryos available. That these 3 embryos, at least 3, have been tested genetically, have been PGT tested, and that they tested normal. Also, besides from that, let me go back. The ones that tested normal are euploids, and the ones that didn't are mosaics. Besides testing normal, I personally recommend, this is not a medical rule, the last decision will be upon you. You will decide whether you want to move forward with them or not according to the embryos, either because of scientific or faith reasons. You know what I mean? Okay, so I recommend at least 3 that were tested normal, that were day 5 embryos or day 5 blastocysts. Please write this down if you want to be able to record this opinion somewhere. Day 5 embryos or day 5 blastocysts. If it is day 2, day 3, day 4, or day 6, they have lesser chances of surviving into becoming a viable pregnancy. Okay, so day 5 embryos, that those embryos were graded by an embryologist. And those embryos that are excellent are the ones that are categorized as 5AA or 5AB, 4AA or 4AB. Anything else around it?
This is the third. This is the third round. This is the third round. The first 2 transfers were failed because the quality wasn't very good. And I feel so bad.
Less or more with other letters or anything? They are not considered excellent embryos. Therefore, in my opinion, I would be more stressed if I would have accepted to transfer quality that is not as good, because the pregnancy has less chances of taking. Imagine excellent embryos that I just described still only have 50% of taking, even if your uterus is in perfect conditions, even if you have taken your estrogen and progesterone exactly as your RE prescribed and never missed a dose or anything, there's still a 50% chance. But if you decide to move forward with a journey with embryos with lesser quality, the chances for a pregnancy that will not take are a lot larger. I just wanted to let you know of my opinion. Okay. Number 8, will the baby look like you? Will they share the DNA with you? Let me tell you something. The most common form of surrogacy nowadays is gestational surrogacy. Unlike traditional surrogacy, where traditional surrogacy, they use your eggs and fertilize it through artificial insemination, gestational surrogacy is when an embryo is made out of the eggs and sperm from the intended parents, or if there is a donor involved, then donor and the biological cell from the other intended parent. So that means that nothing comes from you. If you have a doubt and think, what about when they're inside the belly, like the fluids and everything? Well, the baby is protected completely by the placenta. So the only thing that the baby will be in touch with is the nutrients that will be passed on from you to the baby. Nothing else. So there is nothing that will come in contact that will cause the baby to look like you or share any kind of DNA with you. Number 9, can the intended parents have a relationship with surrogate? Yes, they're totally allowed to have a relationship with surrogate, but you can't force either party to continue having a close relationship with each other, even if it was put into a clause in a contract that can be broken and there is no enforcement whatsoever, no consequences at all. You can't really force somebody to be in a relationship. Yes, if you do agree and if you both continue to develop that closeness, yes, of course, you can even arrange to like meet in person and then have the intended parent talk to your belly, or if you agree to and let them rub your belly, they can do that. They can send you, if they're long distance, they can send you voice recordings so that you can play them all the time and everything, so that the baby can start hearing the voices of the parents and everything. And of course, it will be completely up to you and the intended parents on how you want that bond to be. Now, let me tell you something. I made a video about this. Some surrogates may get upset because the intended parents may have distanced themselves a little bit and the surrogate dreamed of having closeness with them. You can't force nobody, like I said. This is why I said, when you do this journey, you do it because you have a true passion for serving the community, for serving humanity. Because if you do it for other reasons, you're going to have a very hard time. And if you have doubts, in my opinion, I would not do it. Okay? All right. I have a link to that. What I was just talking about, relationships when they kind of like start falling apart. You're going to find the link to that also below. And if you don't see it, just look it up on the playlist. It's going to be right there. I'm going to try to add as many as I can.
And check out now. She did a really good job picking out really cool stuff for babies. So, see ya. Look at that, my community card. This is Tara carrying the shopping bag. This is so cool.
And the last one, number 10. Are you able to see the baby after the journey is over, after the baby has been born? It is totally up to the intended parent. They may have arranged for you to see them, but if something happens last minute that you can't see, you can't blame them. Don't get upset with them because you did this journey to make another family's dream come true, not your dream come true. Because if it's your dream, then you're doing this for the wrong reasons. And this is why the psychologists make sure of these things from the very beginning when they screen you. Some surrogates have spoken about, they say, I am disappointed because they promised that they would let me spend time with the baby or let me see the baby, but I don't hear from them and they are not following or keeping up with their word. You can say whatever you want, but again, you can't have these expectations. And I really hope that you watch this before you get into anything, because if this is your expectation, you would be doing this for the wrong reasons. Again, you're doing this because you want to make a family's dream come true, because you want to serve. Any other reason besides that, you're doing it for the wrong reasons and you're going to have a very hard time.
And as you can see, my belly was really... Okay, so I am 38 weeks. And as you can see, my belly was really, really big. And I am walking with slippers all around Disney Springs. So look, I don't know if you can show, yeah.
If you found this video interesting and valuable, don't be afraid to hit the like button, subscribe for more videos because more are coming. Yes, you have a wonderful day. Bye.